Okay, sorry about that, everyone. We had a technical glitch, and hopefully the sound is now working and everybody can hear us. We are now on to, we just passed a recommendation for the Halloween fireworks and light up Spirit Park events, and the community engagement committee is going to look at some alternatives. They're meeting this Thursday, which should be good. We're now on to 11B, the 2020 Evasive Plant Management on Village of Anmore Municipal Property by Invasive Species Council of Metro Vancouver. Ms. Halliwell.
Thank you, Mayor McEwen. So this particular report comes on an annual basis. We have the Invasive Species Council of Metro Vancouver who comes every year to treat the different invasive species that we have on village property, and this is just a summary report of the work that they've done. It's been orange hawkweed that they've been spending a lot of time looking at this year, and the different areas that they treat are done basically twice a year, once in the spring and then once towards the end of the summer, and then they retreat on an annual basis as well. So I'm certainly able to answer any questions that you might have on this report. Otherwise, it's just here for your information.
Councilor Werber.
It's good to get these updates. How are we doing on our sort of resident education program on all this? Because I still see if we've got infestations on private property, it's just going to keep spreading into village property, right?
Yes, so what we do is we take opportunities through our regular email notification as well as in our publications such as our newsletters to really put information out there. We have a number of pamphlets that are available within the village hall, but also all the information on our website as well.
Have you had many calls from people looking for more information, or hey, how can I treat this? Is there someone I can call? Have they actually made inquiries to the village hall, or are they just kind of taking the information and we're hoping for the best?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, but there have been a lot of calls. We do get calls from residents who have concerns about neighboring properties or private property that isn't theirs, and there's a specific number that they can call to report that, and then that information all feeds back to the Invasive Species Council.
Okay. I just wonder how many people are really aware of it. I mean, it's hard unless it's presented to them. And I'm not saying I have all the answers as to how to do that. I mean, but it is going to be something that affects the village and could get into the park. It could get into all sorts of things if we don't get it under control on private land as well. Okay, thank you.
Good. So, yeah, Councillor Cryer.
Further to Councillor Webering's comment, I just learned that pretty orange flower in one of my gardens is actually an invasive species, and so I'll get that taken care of. But there's got to be other people out there, especially when something blooms and looks nice, and you have a wildflower garden going. It's hard to really know. So again, the education is so important, especially seeing how invasive this is and where we're finding it. Looking at the map, it's really everywhere.
It is, and it's certainly a challenge, and we continue to sort of, the information that we have out has pictures, and it is specific to Anmore in terms of what invasive species are seen most frequently here. So all that literature, again, is certainly available on our website, and we do take the opportunities when we are communicating with the public to make sure we put that out there.
So, see no further. I'll just move receipt. Moved, seconded. Call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. We're now on to the Protective Services Committee / Community Block Watch Program. A report dated October 2nd from our Manager of Corporate Services is attached. Ms. Elrick.
Thank you, Mayor McEwen. So at the last regular council meeting, following some concerns that were brought up by residents regarding some recent public safety issues within the community, council directed staff to come back with the terms of reference for the Public Safety Committee so that council could consider whether this would be a good option to move forward to address some of those concerns. So that terms of reference is included on your agenda package on page 29. And further to that, included in the report is some information about the Community Block Watch program. So staff took this opportunity to contact Heather McRitchie, who is the RCMP Coquitlam Block Watch Coordinator, and she provided the village with some updated communication information and pamphlets. So we have refreshed our community safety page on the village website, and we'll continue to, branch out that information through our other social media and email distribution. Further, we did get in contact with Sandy DeShateson, who is the volunteer resident Block Watch area captain, and she indicated that although the Block Watch program is active in the village, there is a need for more volunteers in terms of certain areas that don't have captains for their block. So I have included as well in the agenda package the application form, which is also on our website, in case there are any residents who are interested in applying. And I do have a staff recommendation regarding the Block Watch specifically, or should council wish to also consider the Public Safety Committee. There's an alternate resolution on the agenda on page 25. So I can read that resolution out, should council choose, or answer any questions.
Good. We had, this was brought to us for, certainly the community has asked that we look at this. And I know in the most recent Anmore Times, there was quite a discussion and a lot of encouragement that council was bringing back this safety committee. And I know I talked to Councillor Laidler, who is the expert in this field, and he was more than willing to put his name forth for reestablishment if we could get enough people forward. But I'm certainly of the adage that we should pursue this and do a call out for volunteers and see where that lies. I know previously, as you said, there was only 2 members that come forward in the previous, but I think it's something the community is really asking for at this point in time. So I'm going to just open it up for discussion before we get to a resolution and see if council has any other similar thoughts. Councillor Weber.
Yeah, I think that the Block Watch program is great, but it's an established program. There's boundaries to it. I think we want to get a little bit more creative, and I think that's what people are looking for in Anmore is a place to share ideas through a committee with a very qualified chair to talk about, well, how could we make security in Anmore better? I mean, people have talked about cameras coming in and out of the village. I don't know if that's a good idea, but exactly, I don't know. So I think people want the safety committee. I think we're going to get good buy-in. We wanted this committee when we were all elected. I think we still need this committee, so I would really like to pursue it and try and establish it.
Okay. Any other, Councillor Trowbridge?
I'm in agreement. I think there's value in having the committee, even in terms of sort of dedicated base to watch what's going on and provide communication. It's when you see social media talk about suspicious vehicles and so on, and then you find out later that maybe they weren't as suspicious, for example, and that it has to do with roadworks and so on. It's important not just to give that sort of alarming information. It's important to give the counterpoint when it's been cleared, so to speak. So, I know staff is completely engaged with everything they're doing, and I think having a dedicated committee to that might just put a more fine point on things. So I'd be supportive of that.
Councillor Cryer.
I also agree with everything my fellow councillors and you, Mayor McEwen, have said. I think it's also a good optic for the village as a whole, for neighboring communities to know that we are taking this seriously, and we have had a lot of concern and activity in the village this summer, and I think it's really important. If we have the interest, if our community has the interest to do it, I think we should open it up and see where it takes us.
Councillor Laidler.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having a committee, Protective Services Committee. I think even if we only have the 2 people that volunteered before and myself, that would be more than adequate, but obviously more the merrier.
Good.
So we go from there.
Good. Well, thank you for that. So do we have, is there a recommendation, Ms. Elrick?
Sure, I do have a recommendation regarding the Public Safety Committee that
Okay.
I can read out.
Perfect.
But one thing I would like to just highlight for council in the terms of reference is that our committee cycle runs on the odd years, and the committee, all of the other committees would come up for renewal of the term on April 1st of 2021. So I would recommend that we keep that same cycle so that we're
Yep.
recruiting for the committees at the same time. Of course, if the committee is formed and it's new members and you just want to reappoint those same members, that's entirely at your purview, but I just don't want to stagger them and be double recruiting, so if
Yeah,
that's fine.
totally. Yeah, that's
All right,
totally
so in that case, the recommendation would read that council establish a public safety committee under the terms of reference as included as attachment 2 to the report dated October 2nd, 2020, entitled Public Safety Committee, and that council direct staff to undertake a process to recruit up to 4 volunteer committee members.
Someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We're now on to 11B, UBCM Housing Needs Assessment Grant Application. A report dated September 29th, 2020 from our Chief Administrative Officer is attached. Ms. Halliwell.
Thank you, Mayor McEwen. So last year in April, the provincial government through the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing announced that all communities within British Columbia would be required to develop and submit a housing needs assessment. And the housing needs assessment is entitled or intended to cover a 5-year period and to be updated every 5 years. And so the purpose of it is really to determine within each municipality and each community what the housing needs are, population projections, and bring all that information together to try to determine what housing needs might be required. So the first deadline for this report is not until 2022. However, in anticipation that this work is going to be undertaken over the next number of years, UBCM has offered a grant program for up to $15,000 that we can apply for. There was one intake last year, and the subsequent intake is closing this month, and there is a thought that after this intake there probably won't be any money left over in the pot, as it were. So our planning consultant, Richard White, has recommended that we apply for the funding, and he's actually actively working with other communities within Metro Vancouver to try to pool the money together to receive some greater economic benefit from creating reports that might draw information and can be used together, which will decrease the village's cost, no doubt. So this has been brought forward to request that we go ahead and apply for the funding, and I'll read out the recommendation and then
Please.
we can certainly answer any questions. So the recommendation is that staff be directed to apply to the Union of British Columbia municipalities pursuant to the requirements of the BC Housing Needs Reports Program for a grant to offset the cost of Anmore's Housing Needs Report, and that staff be directed to combine efforts with other interested jurisdictions in order to most effectively complete the housing needs report.
Good. Someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Open up for discussion. Councillor Trowbridge.
Julie, when I read it, it wasn't clear to me. It says we can apply to up to 15,000, and that could potentially offset our costs 100%. It wasn't clear to me how we benefit by pooling that. Do we still apply for the 15 and then put our 15 into a greater pool, or are we all applying for 15 and dividing up the information?
No, that's a good question, and through the chair is that we would apply for 15,000, and other jurisdictions would also apply for 15,000.
Okay.
And we'd all pool our money together and use one consultant to develop.
And try and get a bigger and better result.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, thanks.
I had the same question.
Okay. See no further questions. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, items from the committee of the whole. Committee sent out the Greenway Strategy Policy 65 at the September 16th, 2020 Parks and Rec meeting. The committee made the following recommendation. That the committee recommend the council endorse Greenway Strategy Policy number 65. Councillor Colbert, do you want to speak on this? Or Ms. Elder?
I'll defer to Councillor Trowbridge. It's from his meeting, so.
Okay.
just maybe jump in, because in terms of the development of this actual policy, I had drafted it and sent it over to the Parks and Rec Committee for their review. So this was an item that had originally come through, I believe, the Parks and Recs Committee in their effort to look at improving trail connections within the village. And the policy was created as a way to just build a framework around how we might approach various landholders to either provide us with rights of way, or perhaps even offer to sell a portion of their land, where if there was a bit of a disconnect between one trail and another, we might be able to utilize some private property in order to make those trail connections happen. So the strategy was sort of developed, and it outlines a few of the objectives, which is again just to make sure that we're increasing trail connectivity throughout the village and into neighboring jurisdictions as well. And then the various different ways that we might look at securing access to that land. And part of it is there's also a letter that's an attachment that we would look to send out to pre-identified property owners, just letting them know that we're interested, and ask whether or not they would be open to having some discussion about how we might provide access to that land. So this is just coming forward. It was endorsed by the Parks and Rec Committee, and it's now coming through for council's approval.
That's pretty complete, but I would add that the Parks and Committee is working on, and has been working on, a trails connection map that's been produced in what I would call a rough form, I think. Is that fair? Yeah. And needs a few more connections. So basically it's a wish list, and it doesn't take into account any constraints, whether that is private land or topography or anything else, which is what Ms. Halliwell is talking about. The Greenway proposes solutions to those crossings in private land and so on. And so we do have a trail map, a road map, something directional as to what we're trying to achieve. And we very much are in support of this draft that Julie has made up.
Good. And Councillor Crowder.
I just want to say congratulations for having this come forward, because I sat on this committee several years ago and we were talking about this very thing, and I think it's terrific that you have a letter drafted and you have my full support.
Good.
It's
Is
great.
there a recommendation? I didn't.
Yeah, the recommendation is that council approve the
Oh, and-
Greenway strategy policy number 65.
Perfect. Someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any further discussion? Councillor Weberink?
Yeah, I remember talking about this back when Mayor McEwen was the Parks Committee Chair. And it was all about the connections. And the great thing when we did the Parks Master Plan, that was one thing that everybody had agreed on in this village. We like our
Embraced.
trails, we want our connections. And of course, you know, land being developed over the last 30 years, we didn't really think about that. You've got a lot of riparian areas that, even though people can't do anything with them, they're privately owned and technically private land. So we didn't really know how to go about it, so this framework is excellent. And it's not going to solve all our problems, but it's going to set us on the right direction, and I'm very excited about it, actually. When I read it, I was very excited.
Good. And I just want to also convey thank you, Councillor Trowbridge, for taking us over the goal line. I really appreciate it, because this has been a long overdue, and it was really, as Councillor Weberling, a focus of the Parks Master Plan that we did at the time, and really embraced by this community. The number one thing that everybody talks about is trails and the connectivity, so
Thanks.
thank you.
I would love to take the bow for it, but I would have totally screwed it up if staff didn't do all the work in the background. So credit where credit's due. But
Yeah.
I think it was a collaborative effort, and staff, to their credit, took it seriously and pushed it over the goal line. I think we're headed in the right direction. And Paul, it's a living document. It's not perfect, and it is going to move around, but it's on the radar now.
Yeah.
It's real.
And pass on our thanks to all members of the committee as well.
That I
Please.
will do
Yeah.
for sure.
Perfect. Good.
Thank
Seeing no further comments, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, Mayor's report. as most people are aware, there's not many events that have been happening, a lot of Zoom calls, but there's a few things I just wanted to go through just to bring to everybody's light. The roadworks, getting lots of compliments on Sunnyside Road. It is amazing. They did it. You didn't really realize how bad it was until you get on that new stretch of Sunnyside Road, and it really is nice. I hope everybody in the community is enjoying it. I've certainly heard from some people, and they really enjoy it. I can't imagine what it's like for the bus drivers and those within the trucks and delivery vehicles coming up and down it, because before it was quite an experience. So just wanted to say there's more road work happening as well, and the trails are going to be started, and I'm sure you'll talk to that. Couple other things. I want to stress to everybody in this community, myself and this council takes the health and safety of this community very, very seriously. And we've had some instances in the past few weeks where there's been some break-ins and some issues with people, undesirable people around. The police I've been in contact with the police. They are making a much bigger presence up here, and you will notice that around here. They're driving around in the early mornings. They're keeping an eye on things. But please don't jump to conclusions on social media. We recently had a fellow in a white pickup truck who was being sort of assumed that he was an undesirable, and he was actually just setting up a staging for equipment to come in for part of our road work. So please take care, keep an eye on your neighbor's property, talk to your neighbors, keep lights on if you need to be, and stuff like that. We all take the safety of this community to the utmost. So please be diligent about it. We are, like I said, the police are increasing their patrols and their presence up here, but please don't jump to conclusions. And then the last thing that I just wanted to mention is I've been receiving quite a few emails. Anmore is under a great strain right now in regards to development pressures. We have the housing market right now, and I think it's somewhat attributed to the people that were living in condominiums and that who want to get out and have a piece of earth that they can walk around in during these troubling times. But there is quite a pressure on us right now for building permits, for development pressures. Please be patient. We are going to be doing what we can. I've set up a meeting with Ms. Halliwell and our building department and planning department in the coming weeks to have a discussion about how we're able to handle this, because I don't see it subsiding anytime soon. Interest rates are at incredible lows right now, and people are wanting to buy what's referred to out of the downtown core out to an area where their families don't have to worry about waiting an hour to get on an elevator to get down to their car or out of their building. So the housing market is on fire. So please be understanding, and that we are going to be meeting and discussing it. So that's all I had. I'll move on to Councillor's report. Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Mayor McEwen. A couple of things. As I already mentioned, we have a CC committee meeting on Thursday at 4 p.m. and we will be discussing our welcome brochure that we've been working on for the last several months, and then also some alternative plans for some community involvement during the holidays. I also want to comment, I think you all have seen the email that came through from Crossroads Hospice Treasures of Christmas. They're doing a virtual gala. As we know, the landscape of events has changed dramatically, and as lovely as it is that our evenings have been freed up because we're not attending a lot of events, those organizations are still suffering and needing funds. So Treasures of Christmas, we have been Councillor Dilworth from Port Moody and Minister Robinson. I guess she's not Minister Robinson right now because the election has been called. MLA Selena Robinson and myself will be hosting that virtual event. So we have a lot of fun, but it's just more of a reminder to support all of the charities out there this time of the year when it's very difficult, and with the holidays coming up, there's going to be a lot of people that need some extra help. And lastly, a thank you to staff for continuing. We're 7 months into COVID. It's very fluid. It changes all the time. It's stressful. I think we're all COVID weary, but you're doing a great job. So please pass that on to everyone else. That is it.
Thank you. Any other Councillor Webber?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about Sunnyside Road. I noticed it's a little wider. They paved it wider. It's it seems that way to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but what a difference. I had no idea. I didn't realize how bad the road was.
I think over the years, we just lost about a foot from each side in certain areas.
It was in the ditch. So yeah, no, what an amazing, and what a great time to do it. I mean, prices were good. We got a lot done for not a lot of money. So I'm very happy to see that.
Good. Okay, I'll move on to the Chief Administrative Officer's report.
Thank you. So just, maybe further to the roadworks, I just wanted to mention that we were very fortunate with our timing and the savings that we had through tendering when we did. We were able to get a lot of the work done that the council's been wanting to for quite some time now. And over and above that, there was a second portion of Sunnyside Road that we actually didn't think that we were going to be able to fit in within the budget. And the contractors that we hired, and the road was in such a condition lower down, that we were able to do Sunnyside all the way up to
All the way, yeah.
Yeah, so that was really beneficial. It wasn't something that we had planned to be able to do this year, but now, Sunnyside is in really good shape. As Mayor McEwen mentioned, we will be continuing our road works. We've got a bit of a lull this week because we've got some materials coming in, but they have already started on the pathway work along East Road, and that will pick up, as well as the sidewalk work down Sunnyside Road towards Benson Lane. So construction is anticipated to carry on for the next few weeks, and the best place to get the information is either on our Facebook page or through our website. We've got continual updates with the construction schedule there. I just wanted to note that we did have our second property tax due date just passed. September 30th was the deadline. And if Council recalls, earlier in the year due to COVID, you had made the decision to split the penalty. Typically, we have 5% after July 2nd, another 5% after September 30th. And this year, to provide some relief to residents, it was 2% as of July 2nd, and then 8% after September 30th. So we did fairly well in terms of the number of residents who were paying. So after July 2nd, we actually had 88% of the property taxes paid. And then after September the 30th, it went up to 93%. So we're right in around where we are on an annual basis in terms of collection. And I just wanted to highlight as well that we have called a finance committee meeting for October the 19th, which is a Monday. We are planning on live streaming that meeting, and the two agenda items that we have on topic will be sort of a recast, a look at our financial picture for this year and what we're anticipating through to the end of 2020, and then also some further discussion around funding for the Anmore Community Hub. So those will be the two items, and we will be looking at live streaming that, as I said, on October the 19th at 6 o'clock to start, and the agenda will be posted a few days beforehand.
Good. Thank you very much. We have some information items on the agenda. Minutes from the Parks and Rec Committee meeting held on November 20th. Minutes of the Environment Committee held on May 21st. Minutes of the Saskatchewan Volunteer Fire Department Board of Trustee meeting held on August 13th. Also some general correspondence from the Office of the Ombudsman, the quarterly report showing that we are in great standing. Council of Seniors Organization, Ministry of Child and Family Development. Metro Vancouver Climate and Energy, UBC resolutions, and Caring for Air 2020, Metro Vancouver's report on air quality and climate change. I will now open up to public question period. Public is permitted to ask questions of council regarding any item pertaining to village business. A 2-minute time limit appears. A 2-minute time limit applies to speakers. Mr. Christie, welcome.
Yeah. I don't think you really like this. It's in reference to this letter you sent me. Where is it? Little thing here. With the tax assessment. Looking at it objectively, it looks to me like you've overtaxed people. Because generally speaking, your budget's supposed to cover what it costs to run the community. So you've been doing it. In your letter here, you say you've been running on 2% and put 8% in the bank, type of thing.
Well, just so you're aware, I would suggest you come to our Finance Committee meeting because it will be pretty clear that we haven't overtaxed, Mr. Christie. I think what you're saying is we had quite a deficit regarding our infrastructure approximately
you're
about.
telling what
You have
you-
to let me finish, Mr.
Okay.
Christie. Approximately about $9 to $11 million. Now, we've overcome that, and also we've been saving for a new village hall because we can't stay in these buildings very much longer, so.
Well, a lot of people in this community would disagree with you,
Okay.
you know. And the thing with it is it works out that you got about 16 grand, almost 16 grand there that you've been banking here for the last 6 years when you compound it over the period. You know, and if these people wanted to, they could ask for their money back.
Do you have any other questions to ask?
Well, yeah, I got a whole bunch here.
Okay, we got 2 minutes, so you better.
You know, this is just, you know, it's just like the village hall. You guys crunched it without asking anybody. It was 625 grand to fix it. And you want to spend millions and millions here on building a new one.
Well, I can tell you that that was not the case. That's
Oh,
not
that
correct.
is the case, because I know for sure it's a fact, you know. You may say you can fix anything, because I worked in reconstruction,
Do you have
and
another
stuff
question?
like that. Because Heather Anders was it wasn't you. You're the one that okayed the crunching. You had to, okay, or destroying the hall. You know, it would have been nothing. That's a really cheap basis for things. It's like I told you here. You should wait till your population increases.
Do you have,
You know.
I'm just cognizant of your time. Do you have any questions of council?
Well, yeah, because I want to know what you guys are going to do about this. Because if the people here ask for their money back, because it's pretty obvious, there's a statement right here that you sent out with the tax thing, that you've overtaxed people, putting it in the bank. Because these people aren't interested in whether you build a village hall, really. They're interested in a heck of a lot of other things themselves, you know. And that's not a goal. You should have a goal like getting Anmore Green hooked up. It should have been hooked up 20 years ago, you know.
Hooked up to what?
Hooked up to the sewer system there.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you
you guys stalled it off.
Do
The
you have
people
any-
that sat on these councils here
Do you have any
stalled
other
it.
questions, Mr.
Okay, you know, so you
If you don't
you
have
guys you better do a lot of thinking here, because the people here can come back at you.
If you
Because you're a
don't have-
servant of the people. We're not here to serve you.
If you don't have any further questions, I'll ask you to sit down.
Okay.
Okay. Any
There's-
other questions? Seeing none? Okay, I'll move to conclude. Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Sorry about the sound issue at the start of the meeting.